The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles. Its walls were made of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform. Each seat held a representative from a different species. Some had scales, some had feathers. Some had no bodies at all, just floating clouds of energy. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They believed they would rule it forever. Elder Vorath sat at the highest seat. His body was tall and thin, covered in gray skin that looked like stone. His eyes were black pools that showed no emotion. He had lived for 3,000 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species beg for mercy and receive none. Nothing surprised him anymore. Nothing scared him. Until today, a young messenger ran into the hall. His feet made loud sounds on the crystal floor. Everyone turned to look at him. It was rude to run in the Great Hall. It was even more rude to interrupt a council meeting, but the messenger did not care. His face was pale with fear. "Elder Vorath," he said. His voice shook. "We have received a message." From Earth. The hall went silent. Then it filled with laughter. Earth. That small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. That world filled with creatures who had only learned to travel between stars 300 years ago. That species called humans. They were nothing. They were insects. They had no place in the affairs of the council. "Read it," said Elder Vorath. His voice was calm and cold. The messenger looked at his tablet. His hands were shaking. "It says, 'Leave our colonies alone. This is your only warning.' Signed, Admiral Yuna of Earth's First Fleet." The laughter grew louder. Representatives slapped their seats. Some wiped tears from their eyes. A warning? From humans? It was the funniest thing they had heard in centuries. But Elder Vorath did not laugh. He remembered something. A story from long ago. A whisper passed down through generations. The first species to meet humans had called them dangerous. They had said there was something wrong with these creatures. Something that made them different from all other life in the galaxy. The other species had not listened. They had laughed at the warning. And then those species had disappeared. No one knew what happened to them. Their worlds were empty. Their ships were gone. Only silence remained. But that was just a story. Just a legend told to scare children. "Send a reply," said Elder Vorath. "Tell the humans that the Council does not take orders from lesser species. Tell them their colonies are in space that belongs to us. They will pay tribute like everyone else. Or they will suffer." The messenger bowed and left. Far away, on a station orbiting Earth, Admiral Yuna received the reply. She was a woman of 50 years, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. She had fought in 3 conflicts. She had lost her husband in the second one. She had lost her son in the third. She had nothing left to lose. She read the Council's message twice. Then she put it down and looked out the window. Earth hung below her, beautiful and blue. Billions of people lived there. Children played in parks. Families ate dinner together. Old people watched the sunset. They did not know that war was coming. They did not know that aliens wanted to take everything from them. They did not listen, she said quietly. Her aide, a young man named Dohun, stood beside her. "Did you think they would?" "No," said Yuna. "But I had to try. History must show that we gave them a chance." She turned away from the window and walked to her command chair. The bridge of the station was large and filled with screens. Officers sat at their posts, watching data flow across their displays. They were the best Earth had to offer. They had trained their whole lives for this moment. "Send the warning to all human colonies," said Yuna. "Tell them to prepare. The Council will attack soon. They always attack the weak first. They want to show their power. They want to make us afraid." Dohun nodded and began typing on his console. Yuna sat in her chair and closed her eyes. She thought about her husband. She thought about her son. She thought about all the humans who had died in wars they did not start. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the smartest. They were not the oldest. But they had something that other species did not understand. They never gave up. When humans were pushed, they pushed back. When they were hurt, they remembered. When they were threatened, they did not run. They stood and fought until the very end. This was not bravery, it was something deeper, something built into their blood and bones. Other species called it madness. Humans called it survival. The council did not know this. They looked at humans and saw small creatures with short lives. They saw primitive technology and weak bodies. They did not see the fire that burned inside every human heart. They did not understand that humans had crawled out of caves and conquered their world through nothing but will and determination. They did not know that humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that killed billions. And they certainly did not know what humans had built in secret, deep in the asteroid belts, hidden in the dark spaces between stars. Waiting, always waiting. Elder Vorath gave the order 3 days later. A fleet of council ships jumped to the human colony on the edge of known space. The colony was called New Hope. 20,000 humans lived there, farmers, miners, families with young children. They had built their homes in a valley between 2 mountains. They grew crops and raised animals. They lived simple, peaceful lives. The council ships appeared in the sky like dark shadows. They fired their weapons without warning. Buildings turned to ash. Fields burned. People ran and screamed, but there was nowhere to hide. The attack lasted 1 hour. When it was over, New Hope was gone. Only smoke and ruins remained. The council ships sent images back to the Great Hall. The representatives cheered. They had shown the humans their place. They had proven their power. The insects would surely surrender now. But Admiral Yuna did not surrender. She watched the images in silence. Her hands gripped the arms of her chair so hard that her knuckles turned white. Tears ran down her face, but her expression did not change. It was the face of a woman who had made a decision. A terrible decision. A necessary decision. "Send the signal," she said. Her voice was steady and cold. "Wake them all up." Dohun looked at her with wide eyes. "All of them? Admiral, are you sure?" "I am sure," said Yuna. "The council wanted war. Now they will have it. And they will learn why the elders whispered of Earth's fury. They will learn why those old species disappeared. They will learn what happens when you hurt our people." She stood and looked at Earth one more time. "They laughed at our warning," she said. "They will not laugh again." Deep in space, in the darkness between stars, something began to wake up. Lights flickered on in ships that had been sleeping for decades. Engines hummed to life. Weapons, systems activated. And across 100 hidden bases, humans opened their eyes and smiled. The warning had been given. The warning had been ignored. Now came the fury. High Commander Tejo stood at the window of Earth's main orbital station. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a scar that ran across his left cheek. He had earned that scar in battle 20 years ago. He had been young then, full of anger and fire. Now he was older. The anger had become something colder, something more dangerous. Below him, Earth turned slowly in the darkness. Above him, stars stretched out forever. And somewhere out there, the council was celebrating. They thought they had won. They thought the destruction of New Hope would break the human spirit. They did not understand humans at all. "Commander," said a voice behind him. It was Lieutenant Unji, a young woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She was the best pilot in the fleet. She was also Tejo's most trusted officer. "The council has sent another message." Tejo did not turn around. "Read it." Unji cleared her throat. It says, "The Galactic Council offers mercy to the people of Earth. Surrender your fleet and pay tribute. Your leaders will stand trial for the crime of threatening superior species. Refuse, and more of your colonies will burn. You have 10 days to respond." Tejo laughed. It was not a happy sound. It was the laugh of a man who had seen too much death, too much pain, too much arrogance, from creatures who thought they were gods. "Mercy," he said. They burn 20,000 innocent people and offer us mercy. What should I tell them, Commander? Tejo finally turned around. His eyes were hard and cold. Tell them nothing. Let them wait. Let them wonder. Let them think we are afraid. Unji nodded and left the room. Tejo walked to his desk and sat down. On the desk was a small photograph in a wooden frame. It showed a woman and two children smiling at the camera. They were standing in front of a small house with flowers in the garden. The woman had kind eyes. The children looked happy and safe. They had lived on New Hope. Tejo picked up the photograph and held it in his hands. His wife. His daughters. They were gone now. Turned to ash by Council weapons. He had not seen them in 2 years. He had been too busy with his duties. He had thought there would be time later. He had thought he would retire someday and go home to them. Now there was no home, no wife, no daughters, no later. There was only revenge. In the great hall of the Galactic Council, the representatives were having a celebration. Food and drinks covered long tables. Music played from hidden speakers. Species that usually hated each other were dancing together. The attack on New Hope had united them all. They had shown the galaxy that no one could stand against them. Elder Vorath sat on his throne and watched the celebration with tired eyes. He should have been happy. The humans had been taught their place. The Council's power had been proven. But something bothered him, something he could not name. A younger representative approached him. His name was Crix, and he belonged to a species of traders who valued profit above all else. His body was short and round, covered in yellow scales. His smile showed too many teeth. Elder Vorath, said Crix, why do you look so worried? We have won. The humans will surrender. Their pathetic fleet is no match for our armada. Perhaps, said Vorath. Perhaps, Crix laughed. You saw the images. One colony. Destroyed in 1 hour. They have no defense against our weapons. They are children playing with toys while we hold the power of stars. They have not surrendered yet. They will. They have no choice. What can they do? Attack us? With what? Crix shook his head. You worry too much, Elder. Enjoy the celebration. We have earned it. Crix walked away, still laughing. Vorath watched him go. The younger generations did not remember the old stories. They did not know about the species that had disappeared long ago. They thought the Council had always ruled the galaxy. They thought nothing could ever challenge them. But Vorath remembered. He had been young once. Just like Crix. He had found old records hidden in ancient libraries. Records that spoke of a time before the Council. A time when other species had tried to build empires. A time when they had all fallen. And in those records, there was always the same warning. The same words, written by different hands in different languages. Never wake the humans. Vorath had thought it was just superstition. Just the fear of primitive species who did not understand science. Humans were not special. They were weak and short-lived. Their technology was basic. Their bodies were fragile. There was nothing to fear from them. But the warning appeared in too many places. Too many species had written the same thing. And all of those species were gone now. Vanished. Forgotten. Only their warnings remained. Vorath shook his head. He was being foolish. The old records were just stories. The humans would surrender. Everything would return to normal. He reached for his drink and tried to enjoy the celebration. On the other side of the galaxy, in a dark corner of space that no map showed, a massive ship drifted in silence. It was bigger than any ship the Council had ever built. Its hull was black and smooth, designed to absorb light and radar. It had no windows. No visible weapons, no markings of any kind. Inside the ship, a woman named Sora sat in the captain's chair. She was 60 years old with white hair and wrinkled skin. Her body was thin and weak, but her mind was sharp as a blade. She had been waiting in this ship for 40 years, waiting for a signal that she hoped would never come. The signal had come. Captain, said her first officer, a man named Hyun. All systems are online. The crew is awake. We are ready. Sora nodded slowly. How many ships responded to the signal? All of them, Captain. Every hidden base. Every sleeping fleet. Over 2,000 ships. Sora closed her eyes. 2,000 ships. Each one built in secret. Each one crewed by volunteers who had given up normal lives to wait in the darkness. They had families who thought they were dead. Friends who had mourned them. They had sacrificed everything for this moment. The Council attacked New Hope, said Sora. 20,000 dead. Families. Children. Yes, Captain. And they are celebrating. They think we are weak. They think we will surrender. Yes, Captain. Sora opened her eyes. They burned with a fire that had been building for 4 decades. Then, let us teach them. Let us show them what humans really are. Let us make them understand why the elders whispered of Earth's fury. She stood up from her chair. Her old bones ached. But she ignored the pain. Send a message to all ships, she said. Tell them to move to attack positions. Tell them to wait for my command. We strike when the Council least expects it. We strike hard and fast. We give them no time to think. No time to beg. Hyun's hands moved across his console. Message sent, Captain. Sora walked to the front of the bridge and looked at the darkness outside. Somewhere out there, the Council was drinking and dancing and laughing. They thought they were safe. They thought they had won. They were wrong. They mocked our warning, said Sora quietly. They burned our people. They called us insects and children. They thought we would kneel. She turned to face her crew. Every officer was watching her. Every face was hard and determined. We do not kneel, said Sora. We are humans. We crawled out of the mud and reached for the stars. We survived ice and fire and death. We never stopped fighting. We never stopped dreaming. And we never, ever forget those who hurt us. She raised her hand. Let the mockery end. Let the fury begin. Across the darkness of space, 2,000 ships began to move. Silent, deadly, unstoppable. The Council continued to celebrate. They did not see the shadows coming. They would see them soon enough. Captain Hana woke up in darkness. Her body felt heavy and cold. Her mind was foggy, like she was swimming through thick water. She tried to move, but her muscles would not obey. For a moment, she thought she was dead. Then she heard the beeping. It was soft at first, then louder. Machines hummed around her. Lights flickered on, one by one. She felt warmth spreading through her body. Her fingers began to tingle. Her toes began to move. Slowly, painfully. She opened her eyes. She was lying in a metal pod filled with blue gel. Tubes were connected to her arms. A mask covered her face, feeding her air. Above her, a screen displayed numbers and graphs. Her heart rate, her blood pressure, her brain activity. Everything was green. Everything was normal. The pod opened with a hiss. Hana sat up and pulled the tubes from her arms. The gel dripped off her body. She was wearing a thin white suit that stuck to her skin. She felt weak and dizzy, but she forced herself to stand. The room around her was large and gray. Hundreds of other pods lined the walls. Some were opening. Some were still closed. People were climbing out of them, coughing and shaking. They all looked confused and scared. A voice spoke through hidden speakers. Attention all personnel. Emergency awakening complete. Report to your stations immediately. This is not a drill. Hana took a deep breath. Her training came back to her. Piece by piece. She remembered who she was. She remembered what she had volunteered for. She remembered why she had agreed to sleep in the darkness for 30 years. The signal had come. Earth needed her. She walked through the room, past rows of waking soldiers. Her legs felt like jelly. But she did not stop. She found a locker with her name on it. Inside were her clothes, her boots, and her weapon. She dressed quickly and strapped the weapon to her hip. A young man stumbled toward her. His name was Jiho. He was an engineer, one of the best in the fleet. His face was pale, and his hands were shaking. Captain Hana, he said. His voice was rough from decades of sleep. What happened? Why did they wake us? I do not know yet, said Hana. But we will find out. Come with me. They walked through long corridors that stretched deep into the ship. The walls were made of dark metal. The floors were cold. Emergency lights cast red shadows everywhere. Crew members rushed past them, all heading to their posts. No one spoke. No one needed to. They reached the bridge after 5 minutes of walking. It was a massive room filled with screens and consoles. Officers sat at their stations, typing commands and reading data. At the center of it all stood Captain Sora. Sora turned when Hana entered. Her old face showed no emotion, but her eyes told a different story. There was pain there, and anger, and something else. Something that looked like satisfaction. Captain Hana, said Sora. Welcome back to the living. Captain Sora, said Hana. What is the situation? Sora pressed a button on her console. A large screen lit up with images. Burning buildings. Smoke rising into the sky. Bodies lying in the streets. Hana recognized the place. It was New Hope, the colony where her brother had lived. The council attacked 3 days ago, said Sora. 20,000 dead. Men, women, children. They burned everything. Hana stared at the screen. Her hands curled into fists. Her brother was gone. His wife was gone. Their children were gone. All of them. Turned to ash by creatures who thought humans were beneath them. Why? Asked Jiho. His voice cracked. Why would they do this? Because they could, said Sora. Because they thought we would not fight back. Because they have never met an enemy that truly scared them. She pressed another button. The image changed. Now the screen showed a map of the galaxy. Thousands of small dots glowed across it. Red dots, blue dots, green dots. Ships, stations, fleets. This is the Council's military, said Sora. 15,000 warships spread across 200 systems. The largest force in the galaxy. They believe no one can stand against them. She pressed another button. More dots appeared on the map. These ones were gold. And this is us, said Sora. 2,000 ships. Hidden for decades. Crewed by volunteers who gave up their lives to wait for this moment. We are smaller. We are fewer. But we have something they do not have. What? Asked Hana. Sora smiled. It was not a kind smile. We have nothing left to lose. She walked to the front of the bridge and faced the main window. Outside, the darkness of space stretched forever. But in that darkness, lights were appearing. Ships were moving into formation, hundreds of them, then thousands. For 30 years, we built these ships in secret, said Sora. We hid them in asteroids and dead planets, and the spaces between stars. We trained our crews and perfected our weapons. We prepared for a war we hoped would never come. She turned back to face her officers. But it came. The council decided to test us. They thought we were weak. They thought we would surrender. They looked at our small colonies and our simple ships, and they laughed. They called us insects. Children, primitive creatures not worthy of their attention. Her voice grew harder. They were wrong. We are not weak. We are not children. We are humans. Our ancestors survived wars that killed millions. They rebuilt after disasters that destroyed entire cities. They crawled out of the darkness again and again, no matter how many times they were knocked down. That is what we do. That is who we are. Jiho stepped forward. What are our orders, Captain? Sora looked at him. Then she looked at Hana. Then she looked at every officer on the bridge. Our orders are simple. We will find the Council fleet. We will destroy it. We will take their stations and their worlds. We will make them pay for every life they took, and when they beg for mercy, we will remember New Hope. We will remember 20,000 innocent people who died because some arrogant creatures thought they ruled the galaxy. She raised her hand. All ships, move to attack formation. Engineers, bring weapons online. Pilots, prepare for combat. Today, the galaxy learns what happens when you hurt humanity. Today, The council learns why the elders whispered of Earth's fury. The bridge erupted with activity. Officers shouted commands. Screens flashed with data. The ship began to hum as its engines powered up. Hana walked to her station and sat down. Her hands moved across the controls, checking systems and running diagnostics. Everything was green. Everything was ready. She thought about her brother. She thought about his smile and his laugh and the way he always made bad jokes. She thought about his children, who had called her Aunt Hana and begged her for stories about space. They were gone now. All of them. But she was still here, and she would make sure their deaths meant something. "All ships report ready," said an officer. Sora nodded. "Good. Set course for the Council's main fleet. Maximum speed." The ship lurched forward. Stars stretched into lines. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, moving faster than light toward the enemy. The awakening was complete. The fury was coming, and the Council had no idea what was about to hit them. Commander Sunho stood on the bridge of his ship, the Iron Will. His hands were steady. His heart was calm. Around him, officers worked in silence, preparing for battle. They had trained for this moment. They had dreamed of it. Now it was here. The main screen showed the Council's armada. 3,000 warships floating in formation around their largest space station. The ships were beautiful in their own way. With curved hulls and glowing engines, they were the pride of the galaxy, the symbol of the Council's power. They would be debris within the hour. "Commander," said Lieutenant Mira. She was young, barely 25. But her eyes were old. She had lost her family on New Hope. "Enemy fleet is holding position. They have not detected us yet." "Good," said Sunho. "Maintain silent running. All ships hold formation." Behind the Iron Will, 2,000 human ships waited in the darkness. They had dropped out of hyperspace on the far side of a dead moon, hidden from the Council's sensors. Now they moved slowly, carefully, like wolves closing in on sleeping prey. The Council did not know they were coming. Why would they? Humans did not have a secret fleet. Humans did not have advanced weapons. Humans were just insects, barely worth noticing. Sunho smiled grimly. The insects were about to bite. On the Council station, Elder Vorath sat in his chambers and reviewed reports. The humans had not responded to the ultimatum. 10 days had passed, and there was only silence. Some Council members thought this meant surrender. Others thought it meant fear. Vorath thought it meant something else, something worse. A knock came at his door. "Enter," he said. A military officer walked in. His name was General Drex, the commander of the Council's fleet. He was a tall creature with 4 arms and thick blue skin. His face showed nothing but confidence. "Elder Vorath," said Drex. "Our scouts have found no sign of human military activity. Their colonies are quiet. Their ships are not moving. I believe they have accepted defeat." "Perhaps," said Vorath. "You do not seem convinced." Vorath stood and walked to his window. Outside, the Council fleet filled the sky. So many ships. So much power. And yet, something felt wrong. "Have you ever read the old records, General?" asked Vorath. "The ones from before the Council was formed?" "No, Elder. They are just myths and legends. Nothing useful for a military commander." "Perhaps. But those records all say the same thing. Never wake the humans. Never make them angry. Never push them into a corner." Vorath turned to face Drex. "We burned one of their colonies. We killed 20,000 of their people. We gave them an ultimatum that demands their surrender." "Yes," said Drex. "Standard procedure for dealing with lesser species. But what if they are not a lesser species? What if those old records were right?" Drex laughed. "With respect, Elder, you worry too much. The humans have no fleet that can threaten us. Their technology is primitive. Their numbers are small. Even if they wanted to fight, they could not win." An alarm suddenly filled the room. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. Drex's confident expression disappeared. "What is happening?" demanded Vorath. Drex pressed a button on his communicator. "Control, report." a panicked voice answered. "General, ships are appearing on sensors. Thousands of them. They came from nowhere." "What? That is impossible." "They are human ships, sir. They are human ships." Vorath felt his blood go cold. The old records, the warnings, they were true. All of them were true. Outside the station, the human fleet appeared like ghosts from the darkness. 2,000 ships, their black hulls almost invisible against space. They moved in perfect formation, spreading out to surround the Council Armada. On the bridge of the Iron Will, Sun Ho watched the enemy fleet scramble to respond. Ships were turning. Weapons were charging. But it was too late. Far too late. "All ships," said Sun Ho. "Open fire." The darkness erupted with light. Human weapons were not elegant. They were not beautiful. They were designed for one purpose only: destruction. Railguns fired metal slugs at incredible speed. Missiles flew in swarms toward enemy ships. Energy beams cut through shields like they were made of paper. Council ships exploded one after another. Fire bloomed in the vacuum. Metal twisted and broke. Creatures screamed as their vessels came apart around them. Captain Hana flew her fighter through the chaos. Her hands moved on instinct, dodging debris and enemy fire. Around her, squadrons of human pilots engaged Council interceptors. The enemy ships were fast and powerful, but the human pilots were better. They flew with rage and precision. Every kill, a payment for new hope. "Enemy cruiser on your left," said Jiho through the radio. He was in his own fighter, covering Hana's wing. "I see it," said Hana. She pulled her ship into a tight turn and fired. Her missiles struck the cruiser's engines. The ship lost control and crashed into another Council vessel. Both exploded in a ball of fire. "Good shot," said Jiho. "Save the praise for later," said Hana. "There are still thousands of them left." But the thousands were becoming hundreds. Council ships tried to retreat. But human vessels blocked every escape route. They tried to surrender. But their signals went unanswered. They tried to fight. But their weapons could not match human rage. On the Council station, Elder Vorath watched his fleet die. Screens showed nothing but fire and death. Communications were filled with screaming and begging. The greatest military force in the galaxy was being torn apart by creatures they had called insects. "How?" whispered Vorath. "How is this possible?" General Drex did not answer. He was staring at the screens with empty eyes. His confidence was gone. His pride was gone. Only fear remained. "They were prepared," said Vorath. "All these years, they were preparing for this. Building ships, training soldiers, waiting for us to give them a reason." He thought about the message he had ignored. "Leave our colonies alone. This is your only warning." He thought about the celebration after New Hope burned. The laughter. The mockery. The humans had given them a chance. The Council had thrown it away. Commander Sun Ho watched the last of the Council's main fleet disappear in flames. The battle had lasted 47 minutes. 3,000 Council ships destroyed. Human losses, 83 ships. It was not a battle. It was a massacre. "Commander," said Lieutenant Mira. Her voice was quiet. "The station is requesting to surrender." Sun Ho looked at the Council station. It hung in space, surrounded by debris and bodies. Lights flickered on its hull. Escape pods launched from its sides. He thought about New Hope. He thought about 20,000 people who had been given no chance to surrender. No warning. No mercy. "Signal from Captain Sora," said an officer. "She is asking for your orders regarding the station." Sun Ho was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Tell them we will accept their surrender. We are not them. We do not kill those who cannot fight back." He turned away from the screen. "But tell them this too. The war is not over. Their colonies will pay tribute. Their leaders will stand trial. And every species in this galaxy will learn what happens when you hurt humanity." He looked at his crew. "The fury has only begun." 6 months had passed since the battle. 6 months since the Council's fleet burned in the darkness. 6 months since the galaxy learned what humans were truly capable of. Elder Vorath sat in a small room on Earth. It was not a prison cell, but it might as well have been. The walls were white and plain. A single window looked out over a garden filled with flowers. Birds sang outside. Children played in the distance. It was peaceful here. It was beautiful. Vorath had never felt more terrified in his life. The door opened. Admiral Yuna walked in. She was wearing a simple uniform. Nothing fancy or decorated. Her gray hair was tied back. Her face showed no emotion. "Elder Vorath," she said, "how are you finding your accommodations?" "They are adequate," said Vorath. His voice was weak. His body had grown thin in the months of captivity. "Though I confess, I expected something darker. Chains. Torture. That is what the Council does to prisoners of war." "We are not the Council," said Yuna. She sat down across from him. "We do not torture those we defeat. We do not murder civilians. We do not burn colonies full of children." The words hung in the air like knives. Vorath looked down at his hands. "The attack on New Hope was a mistake. I see that now. We should have negotiated. We should have listened to your warning." "Yes," said Yuna. "You should have, but we did not. And now," he gestured at the window, "now everything has changed." Outside the window, the world continued to turn. But it was a different galaxy now. The Council no longer ruled. Their fleets were destroyed. Their stations were taken. Their colonies had surrendered one by one as human ships appeared in their skies. There had been no more massacres, no more burned settlements. The humans had been brutal in battle, but gentle in victory. They accepted surrenders. They treated prisoners fairly. They rebuilt what they destroyed. It was not what anyone had expected. Captain Sora had died 3 months ago. Her old body had finally given out, worn down by years of sleeping in the cold darkness. But before she died, she had seen the Council fall. She had seen the galaxy bow to humanity. She had smiled and closed her eyes and whispered, "We did it." Now Captain Hana led the fleet. She stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Memory, looking out at the stars. The war was over. The fury had burned itself out. But something remained, something that would never fade. Memory. "Captain," said Jiho. He stood beside her, his engineer's tools still hanging from his belt. "The last Council world has signed the treaty. The war is officially over." "I know," said Hana. "Then why do you look so sad?" Hana was silent for a moment. Then she spoke. "My brother used to say that revenge was like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. He said it would destroy you from the inside. He sounds wise." He was. Hana touched the window gently. "I thought that killing the Council would make me feel better. I thought it would fill the hole inside me. But it did not. My brother is still dead. His children are still gone. All the killing in the galaxy will not bring them back." Jiho nodded slowly. "So what do we do now?" "We remember," said Hana. "We remember why this happened. We remember what we lost. And we make sure it never happens again." On the Council station, now controlled by humans, Commander Sunho oversaw the reconstruction efforts. The station had become a symbol of the new order. Humans and aliens worked side by side, rebuilding what war had destroyed. It was slow work, difficult work, but it was necessary. A young alien approached Sunho. He was small and green, with large eyes that showed nothing but fear. His species had been one of the Council's most loyal supporters. They had cheered when New Hope burned. "Commander," said the alien. His voice shook. I wanted to apologize. For what we did. For what we supported." Sunho looked at him. The alien flinched. Expecting anger. Expecting violence. "What is your name?" asked Sunho. "Nex, sir. Nex." Sunho nodded slowly. "Your people made a terrible choice. You supported the murder of innocent humans. You celebrated when our children died." Nex looked down in shame. "But," continued Sunho, "you are not your leaders. You are not the ones who gave the orders, and we humans believe in second chances. We believe that people can change We believe that the future does not have to be defined by the past. He held out his hand. Help us rebuild. Help us create something better. Show us that your species can be more than what the council made you. That is how you apologize. Not with words, with actions. Nex stared at the hand. Then, slowly, he reached out and took it. Back on Earth, Admiral Yuna finished her conversation with Elder Vorath. She stood and walked to the door. What will happen to me? Asked Vorath. Will there be a trial? Yes, said Yuna. You will be judged for your role in the attack on New Hope. But it will be a fair trial. You will have the chance to defend yourself. And if you are found guilty, your punishment will fit your crimes. No more. No less. That is more than we would have given you, said Vorath quietly. I know, said Yuna. That is why we are different. That is why we won. She opened the door. The elders of your council whispered about Earth's fury, she said. They told stories about humans and warned each other to leave us alone. Your generation mocked those stories. You thought they were just legends. Fairy tales. To scare children. She looked back at Vorath. Now you know the truth. We are not a legend. We are not a fairy tale. We are humanity. We were forged in fire and blood. We survived every disaster our world could throw at us. And when others threatened our people, we responded with everything we had. Vorath met her eyes. And now? What will humanity do now? Yuna smiled. It was a sad smile, filled with pain and wisdom. Now we heal. We rebuild. We teach. We try to make the galaxy a better place than we found it. Not because we are weak. Not because we have forgotten. But because destroying is easy. Building is hard. And we have always been willing to do the hard things. She stepped through the door. The fury is over, Elder. Now comes the silence. Not the silence of death. Not the silence of fear. The silence of peace. The silence of a galaxy that has finally learned to respect humanity. The door closed behind her. Vorath sat alone in his room. Outside, the birds continued to sing. The children continued to play. The flowers continued to bloom. The galaxy had whispered of Earth's fury. The council had mocked fate. And silence had befallen them. But it was not the silence they had expected. It was not extinction. It was not annihilation. It was something far more terrifying for those who had once thought themselves gods. It was mercy. And that mercy would echo through the stars forever. A reminder to all species that would come after. The humans were not to be feared because they could destroy. They were to be feared because they could destroy. And they chose not to. That was true power. That was humanity, and the galaxy would never forget it.